Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the life of Peter. And we're going with Peter, James, and John, and Jesus to the Garden of Gethsemane. And we're going to reference John's account in John 18, but we're going to read Mark's account in Mark 14, because, as we've said on many occasions, Mark's account is Peter's account. And so we get his version of what happened that evening. Um, after the gospel writers make clear, after the supper and after Jesus had said the things he wanted to say to them, they sang. I wish I knew what they sang. I wish I could have heard the sound of their voices blending together. Whatever they were singing, this the voices filled with everything: sadness, um, anticipation, fear. Just voices filled with everything that they were feeling in that moment. Um, I love that Jesus loved the Garden of Gethsemane. It's a garden. It's a public garden. The hill of Gethsemane um, is a place where olives are grown, and Gethsemane means olive press. And Herod the Great had turned part of that acreage into a public garden, which was filled with olive trees and just the fragrance of the olive trees. And Jesus is there a lot, and I just like the fact that he liked it there. And when he had his moment, he went there. Peter is the one who remembers, even though he was asleep, how hard it was for Jesus. All the gospel writers tell us that, but Peter is the one who records the very words. Mark is. Or records the very words that has Jesus saying, "You can do anything." Luke tells us that he was sweating blood. We don't know that anyplace else. John tells us that when Jesus was arrested, Peter was the one who cut off Malchus's ear. And Peter was neither aiming for his ear or was swordsman enough to cut it off if he had aimed for it. He was going to chop off his head. He was going for a brute blow, just split him right down the middle. And luckily for all involved, that didn't happen. Mark is the one who tells us, who describes Jesus as saying these things not to the disciples, but to Peter himself. He takes the three, Peter, James, and John. James will be the first to die for him. Peter will be crucified in Rome. John will be the one living the longest to tell the stories. Um, he takes them with him into the garden, and he needs to not be alone. He's going to go a little ways away to pray, but he needs them there, and he needs them to watch with him, to sit vigil with him, to not fall asleep. He needs them there. Jesus needs to not be alone. He needs his three closest friends there with him as he goes through this moment where he asks God not to do this, where he asks God not to be crucified, not to go through the ordeal of carrying and knowing he's carrying the sins of all humanity for all time on his shoulders. Uh, he doesn't want to do this, and he asks not to do it. And he needs them here while he goes through this. Mark 14:32. They came to a place named Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here until I've prayed." And he took with him Peter, James, and John, and began to be very distressed and troubled, described as just shaking all over. And he said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." And he went a little ways, and he fell to the ground, began praying if it were possible that the hour might pass him by. And he was saying, "Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." And he came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon," Simon again, not Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep watch for an hour? Keep watching and praying that you may not come into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." That is particularly true of Peter this evening. His flesh is going to be weak, and he's going to deny Jesus 3 times. And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. And they did not know what to answer him. And he came a third time and said to them, Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It's enough. The hour is come. Behold, the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Arise and let us be going. Behold, the one who betrays me is at hand. We know from Luke that Jesus has received comfort from the angels at this point. This is kind of a personal moment with Peter in Mark's account. And of course, we get the very voice of Jesus. We get Jesus saying to God, as a little kid would to his dad, you can do anything. You can do anything. By definition, you're God, you're omnipotent. You can do anything. Don't make me do this. But not what I will, but what you will. And of course, God is omnipotent, but he cannot save us and satisfy justice and express love apart from the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross. It's an impossibility. And Peter was there, asked to just stay awake for a little while with Jesus, and he couldn't. And I know that probably felt like a betrayal to him as well later on. But he was there, and he takes us there in a way we're not taken in the other Gospels. It continued clearly to be a profound moment for him, and a transforming one as well. Well, the spirit is willing and the flesh is going to be weak, and we're going to read what happens when Jesus is betrayed by Peter, just like he said he would be, denied 3 times before the cock finishes crowing in the morning. We'll look at that next time we're together. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.